Peace and blessings to one and all gatherings. Good greetings, everybody. This is DJ KY Allah, aka Kato the Black Superhero, right here on the Real 360 show, being brought to you by Liveation Radio Network. Co-host. My co-host is on the air now, Josh Shamel Allah, Mr. PhD himself. Mr. PhD, the floor is yours, my brother. Peace.
Peace. Good evening to all our followers, all our listeners, everyone that's been watching our show for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I want to start out by giving our condolences to the firstborn earth of the 5% Nation, Amin, her and her family. Our deepest condolences from Live Asian Nation and Real to Real 360. Today, we have an honored guest, a young brother who is definitely making an impact in the Black community or in our or anybody's community today. We have the brother Duron Chavis, who is one of the founders of Happy Natural Day, also deals with a lot of holistic sciences with being able to teach you how to grow your own organic fruits and vegetables. And right now I want to let him step in and then let him introduce himself. And we're going to start giving him his flowers while we're doing it. Peace, brother.
Peace. How y'all doing, man?
Peace.
Yeah, my name is Duron Chavis, also known as Brother Manifest. I've been active in the community doing health work, healing work, I guess if you want to call it that, since like 2003. And the work looks like the coordination and facilitation of the Happily Natural Day Festival, now in its 18th year, which is a platform dedicated to Black and Brown people loving themselves. We've been bringing all types of speakers through there for the last almost 20 years. Everybody from Dad Prez, Lord Jamar, political prisoners like Daruba bin Wahad, Mukasa Dada Ricks, people like Queen Afua, Runoko Rashidi, rest in power to him, Afra Kwesi, Philip Valentine, Bobby Hemmett. It's been a ride. The last 10 years, I would say, or the last 12 years actually, has been dedicated to the one thing that all of us got to do every day, which is eat food. And we've been really, really hammering that nail into the wall, orienting folks around how they can grow food on their own, how they can build their own gardens, farms, orchards, and etc. Really talking about how we can increase our access to healthy food, but beyond that, just how we can have power, through land, building community around reestablishing our ownership and control over land, so we have sovereignty and self-sufficiency in our community. So, yeah, man, we ride this wave, man. We've been on this grind for a while, and I'm happy to be here to talk about what that work has been looking like and why that work is important.
Okay, speaking on that, since that just opened the door, we've been dabbling in holistic sciences a little bit. Me and KYs, we build about fruits and vegetables, organics, and things of that nature. Tell the people how different it is when you're dealing with the seed and the seedless fruits and vegetables that they are pushing on them in the community. Right. And what is really the science with the GMOs and all the ones that are seedless GMO, and are they good for your health?
Word. Yeah, that's a great place to start. So, food security is one conversation, to talk about. But everybody want to have access to food, and having food is like a prerequisite for everything. You can't move in, you can't do anything if you don't have food to eat, good food, healthy food to eat. So the question about the difference between, the seeded and unseeded fruits and vegetables, I guess fruits mostly is what people be referencing when they talk about this. is that there's definitions that we need to do, right? And understand, how food is grown. You know what I mean? So on one level, uh, there's a process that's been in effect since people been growing food, right? Agriculture is one of the oldest sciences. And that process is called the process of hybridization. So what happens is that there's literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of varieties of fruits and vegetables. So, people say, I want some watermelon. Mm-hmm. There's hundreds of different types of watermelon. You dig? Mm-hmm. Back in, the earliest times, before documented history, there was like one or two different types of watermelon, right? But watermelon is a fruit that's in a family of different fruits that can be reproduced. So when you imagine someone giving that talk to kids about the birds and the bees, right? The whole act of reproducing a vegetable or a fruit is the process of pollination, right? Mm-hmm. So when a fruit is pollinated, it's the pollen or seed from one variety getting placed on the flower of a variety of the same family. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's just use an example. So there's two, most people are familiar with watermelon. So let's say there's a crimson red watermelon and there's a sugar baby watermelon. These are two popular varieties of watermelon. I can take the pollen from the crimson red watermelon and I can dab that pollen on the flower of a sugar baby watermelon. And when I dab those two, I can produce a third type of watermelon. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that third type of watermelon will have the characteristics of the crimson red and the sugar baby watermelon. Okay. That's the process of hybridization, right? So if I do that same process, mating the crimson red and the sugar baby 6 successive times, then on the 6th time, I will lock in the genetics of that third variety, right? And so then I can go and continue to reproduce this third variety of watermelon. Farmers, botanists, have been doing this forever. It happens on accident, even in the wild. So if I, have these two watermelons in my garden close to each other, they can be pollinated by, the bees or the butterflies or whatever, and it can produce that third type. But it's the intentionality around doing it 6 successive times that will create the third variety. I say all that to say, on the market right now, there are fruits that are marketed as unseeded varieties of fruits that we eat. So these most people recognize them as the grapes, seedless grapes, or seedless watermelon. Mm-hmm. Now, those varieties actually do have seeds. The issue is those varieties have been bred so that the seeds are so small they are unnoticeable when we eat them, right? So if you go get some seedless grapes today, split that grape open it up, and you'll see very small seeds inside of it. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with the watermelon. Those little white dots in the inside are the seeded, the quote unquote seeds of a seedless watermelon, but they've been marketed as unseeded. That is a far cry in difference from what most people consider genetically modified organisms, right? And it's important to make this distinction because, I understand people's, concern and like their desire to like be safe in terms of what they're eating.
Right.
The issue is I can hybridize a crop in my greenhouse, you know what I mean? But I cannot create a genetically modified organism in my greenhouse. Okay. A genetically modified organism is created through the process of injecting the genetics of a life form, whether it's a plant, bacteria, other type of mammal, fish, whatever, into a plant that's not of its family. So I got a sugar baby watermelon.
Right.
If I want to put the genetics of a certain bacteria or a certain fungus or some other type of animal into that watermelon, I would have to have a lab where I can extract the DNA, the genetics from another life form and inject it into the fertilized egg or the seed of this other crop. We don't have most people, if you don't live, if you don't work in that field, you don't have the access to that technology to do that. Now there are products on the market that are genetically modified. You dig what I'm saying? So things like soybeans, corn, for the most part, soybeans and corn are the most prolific crops that are genetically modified. And the reason that they genetically modify these crops is because they're trying to make them resistant to different pests, different fungus. And, they've gotten away and when I say they, I mean like the mega corporations that create, that grow food, the mega farms have gotten away from the practices that take in consideration the most important element of growing food, which is soil, right? And healthy soil.
Right. Those
companies, they're just trying to like grow food faster, without any regard to the ancient practices, the ancient holistic practices that are necessary to take care of the earth and to make sure that human beings, are cared for in the way that we grow food. Because they've been damaging the soil through these methods, the soil is not healthy, right? They have to, or they desire to modify the seed itself so that it can grow in these poor conditions. Okay. And so the poor conditions is what makes it important for them to try to inject all this type of stuff to make a new crop that's not natural to the earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, this is the issue. This is the I'm glad you brought this up because I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, right? But if you eat chips, what I'm saying? If you eat any kind of like sugar, anything with like sugar in it, what I'm saying? Or hot corn syrup in it or what have you, then you've been ingesting genetically modified organisms. You know what I'm saying? Because the way the system is, the cheapest way for them to produce the corn syrup is from the corn that has been genetically modified, right? So while on one side it's like, people raise a fuss, or not even a fuss, but like raise alarm around unseeded versus seeded fruits and vegetables. If you're drinking sodas, you know what I'm saying, you are on a regular basis, if you're drinking juice from the corner store, you know what I'm saying, if you're eating Doritos, Lay's, chips, you know what I'm saying, any of that, you're putting genetically modified organisms inside of your body. So you got to be aware that there's, the only way to get around all of that is to either A, grow your own food, or B, be in connection and in relationship with farmers that you can trust are growing the food in the most holistic practice that you know, your bar is set, you know what I'm saying, that matches what you want in terms of food safety. But you know, I really try to express to people like, hey, you know, don't worry. Like there is no such thing as an unseeded watermelon or unseeded grape. It's just that those crops have been hybridized or reproduced, you know what I mean, in a greenhouse, so that characteristic, a very small seed, is something, you know what I'm saying, that you can buy. Because people are lazy, they don't want to spit out the seeds. People, you know what I'm saying? It's just a tool for marketing so that people can, you know, enjoy, quote unquote, these crops without the without the challenge of having to spit the seeds out. I mean, and you know, the hybridization of crops, I mean, it's not just for like to make the seed small. It's stuff like taste. You know, it's stuff like making a crop drought resistant, right? Or making it resistant to different pests, or, you know, changing up the size or the color. You know what I'm saying? These are things that, you know, that are done by botanists, by farmers, and have been done for forever.
So do it lose its nutrient value when it's have the smaller seeds, or anything like that?
So I mean, there's different nutrient levels on everything. You know what I'm saying? The most important thing about nutrients in the food is when the crop is grown, right? It's getting its nutrients from the soil, right? So the soil actually it's like a pot, right? So it's like underneath the ground, there's all types of organisms, bacteria, insects, and things like that are interacting and, you know, breaking down, you know, different organic matter. And as they break that stuff down, it's releasing, you know, the different nutrients that the plant needs to grow. And so the plant, you know, then is consumed by us, which we take the nutrients from the plant. So it all starts with the soil. So it's not even about, you know what I mean, the variety, so to speak, because every variety has different levels of nutrients, because every variety is a different plant. So it's like when you say, well, you know, does it affect the nutrients? I mean, there's different nutrients in the eggplant than it is in a tomato. You know what I mean? Right. But regardless of what variety of crop you eating, if the nutrients are not inside of the soil, then, you know, you're not going to get the optimal benefit from eating the crop in the first place. Now, I say that to say that the quality of our soil, and this is across, you know, the planet, has been degraded because, you know, over years we've degraded it, and we haven't been practicing the growing techniques that, you know, our ancestors used. So, for example, when you grow a crop, or when you build up your soil, like people will go to the store and go buy something from off of a shelf, you know, that has nitrogen, potassium, or phosphorus inside of it, right? NPK. These are things that you go to the garden store and you'll see, you know what I mean, in the fertilizer section. But back in the day, like you ain't had no gardening section, you know what I'm saying? When we lived out in the country, you couldn't go to the, you know what I'm saying? You couldn't go to a Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, you know what I'm saying? You had to like build up your soil using the stuff that you had on hand. So A1 was, you know, we raised livestock. So if you had a cow, goats, you know what I'm saying, chickens or what have you, when those animals would eat and poop, you know, we would let that poop break down and turn into a manure that we would then add to the farm soil, so that it would release those nutrients into, you know, the soil, and plants would then uptake that, right? You know, we will also take our food waste, scraps and things like that, let that break down, and then add that to the soil. So the process of composting was always has always been a technique that we've used, to build up our soil. Even the indigenous people of this country would, put fish bones and things like that into the soil and let it break down, and that would release the nutrients back into the soil. But what I'm saying, on the larger scale with agriculture, people not doing that. What I'm saying? They're not using those ancient techniques. They just go and find a concentrated source of nitrogen or phosphorus and calcium and just spray that on the stuff. And then, what I'm saying, hope for the best. So we don't have a full spectrum of the nutrients in our soil like we did back in the day, because we've gotten away from the techniques that would provide that. I would encourage people, to try to connect with farmers that are growing the food what they call regeneratively, where they're, putting that, putting organic matter back into the soil, in order to build up the soil health. That way, you're sure to get higher levels of nutrients inside of your food, and that versus, concerning yourself so much with like the different varieties. Now, having a balanced diet is of uber importance too. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're vegan or vegetarian or you're a meat eater, making sure that you have a balanced diet is most important. Not going to be just one thing that you eat, but if you want to get the most healthiest food, you're going to have to find the farmers that are growing the food in the most holistic fashion as possible, and those are the farmers that are composting, that are adding, that are creating a closed loop. So there's the food waste is being added back to the soil to increase the nutrients and making those nutrients available for the plants that are growing.
All right. Give me 1 second right now. We got to do that commercial break right quick with Liveation Radio. Also, too, if you want to call in to Real to Real 360, the number is right there, 336-807-9299. If you want to call in, speak with Brother Manifest at this moment. Also, too, we'd like to shout out Liveation Radio. Also, R5 Designs, which is at 6472 US Highway, 29 Blair, Virginia. We want to shout out 1964 Clothing, Law School in Mecca. At this moment, I want to shout out my brother K Wise. Make sure that y'all listening for the drive home every day, Monday through Friday, from 6 to 8. K Wise is on the wheels of steel. All right, now back to K Wise. Did you have a question for Brother Manifest?
Yeah, true indeed. Going back to what you said earlier, and it hit me to think about the words you said. You said when they're doing and I'm looking at it, you said 6 successful tries as far as experimenting with different types of foods or the mixtures to get what you call the third one, which is a mutation.
Yeah,
now,
well,
it takes me
more
back
or
to
less.
our lesson.
Yeah.
So, but my question is this here, dealing with it, let's say if myself, I want to buy some land.
Right.
And the land, I'm not sure if the land is cultivated for to grow food or not. What can I do to test my soil and ground to make sure that it is healthy and bountiful to produce the great fruits and vegetables that we need in a natural holistic science?
Word. So yeah, that's a great question. So this is the deal. First of all, when you're looking at where you're going to grow, it's important to note that in urban spaces in the city, that any property that you get within the city limits is probably not going to be as good as any land that you would get in a rural area, right? Only because in the city, you got cars, you got prior construction that might have been on that lot or that land. You got houses that might have been there that were torn down that might have released lead, into the soil or any other types of chemicals that go into building a house. Then on top of that, you might have factories or plants or what have you that might be in close proximity that have been releasing things into the air, and then when it rains, that stuff is coming back down in some fashion. So that's usually the challenges of growing food in the city or getting land in the city within the city limits. But if you find a good tract of land that's in a rural area, hopefully it's been a property that's always either been grass or that was trees, you know what I'm saying? And that those trees were then cut down or what have you. Nobody's ever did anything on it. If it was an old forest, you know what I'm saying, or forested area, and then it was cut back, and now you got pretty much virgin land, you know what I'm saying, that hasn't had anything on it. That's the best. But if you want to test it, one of the techniques or one of the strategies that I would do is that there are companies out here that will test your soil and tell you exactly, what qualities the soil has and what you would need to do in order to make the soil as fertile as possible. And what that looks like in the work that we do, we'll go ahead and take a soil sample, which is like, you could just scoop up, a couple inches of the soil, get you a little device, get you something to stab into the soil, get you about 4 inches, and then you put that inside of a bag and you'll send it over to one of these laboratories, right? And it's a company called Waypoint that we like advise people to go through. You gotta pay a couple dollars, maybe about $100, but in the long run, it'll be very helpful for you. Now, there's a cheaper way that's less expensive and more, but they're not going to give you all the information. So you can go through your local cooperative extension. So the cooperative extension is basically people that work for the state, whether it's Virginia or whatever state. They're charged with helping people with their farming endeavors or with their gardening endeavors, or even stuff like life sciences, home economics, and stuff like that. These are people that's all they do. So they have a test that you can use, or a service that they provide that they'll test your soil. But they're not going to get down into the nitty gritty of all the things that are going to be necessary for your soil to grow at its optimal. They're just going to tell you some of the basic elements that are going to be inside of your soil. They will focus probably on the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium, or what have you. But that's okay. You can use that and grow from there. Anytime you getting a new property, or you getting ready to start a farm, or you're going to garden, or what have you, it's always going to be imperative for you to be constantly working to build up your soil health. You see what I'm saying? You're always going to be building up your earth. And that's the work for all farmers, right? No matter what, every season, your goal is to make sure that the soil that you're planting into has everything that it needs for your plants. You know what I mean? And that looks like, going back again to the composting and bringing that into the space. It also looks like getting what we call biological soil amendments, right? That, contrary to popular belief, a lot of the stuff you can go into the grocery store to get can actually be used to build up the health of your soil. For example, alfalfa. So alfalfa is a grass crop, you know what I mean? People grow it to feed their cows and feed their goats and stuff like that, or they grow it for hay, you know what I mean? But the alfalfa has a lot of the protein that your soil needs to activate a lot of that biological activity for the insects and the bacteria and the fungi, and that stuff actually helps build up the strength of the plants, right? The fibrous material that your plants need can come from alfalfa, ground up alfalfa in the form of a meal, right? Like kind of like, kind of like a powder, right? So alfalfa, what we call it alfalfa meal. Another thing, kelp. So, you go to the beach, right? And you see seaweed washing up on the shores of the beach, right? Well, the seaweed is also a great amendment that you can add to your soil, because it's going to add not only nitrogen to your soil, but it's also going to add a lot of the trace minerals that's necessary for your plants to grow healthy as well. And so both of those things, you can go into a health food store today and get you some kelp, you know what I mean? Get you some seaweed, grind that up, and then boom, you can add that into your soil. So if you find some property, some land, I would recommend getting you a soil test, but irrespective of what the soil test tells you, you know what I'm saying? You're always going to be working on adding biological soil amendments and compost to your soil so that it can grow the best plants humanly possible. But you got to think about it like this. You're going to plant a crop, right? Don't matter what you plant. Collard greens, tomatoes, peppers, whatever, right? When those crops grow, they're going to take nutrients from out of the soil, right? And then you're going to take that food and you're going to eat it. You know what I mean? How is the soil going to get the nutrients back unless you're intentional in putting it back? You dig what I'm saying? It's just not going to come out of the air. You know what I'm saying? But there are things that you can plant in your soil, what things that we call cover crops. And that's stuff like, you know, cowpeas, beans, you know, a lot of people remember hearing about George Washington Carver, right? Back in the day in school, right? Black History Month. And you hear him talk about the peanut, right? Well, you can plant peanuts and the peanuts will help bring down nitrogen out of the air. This is how amazing and how much of a genius George Washington Carver was. He figured out that the peanut was able to absorb nitrogen out of the air and store it inside of the actual peanut itself, inside of the beneath the soil, right? So not only was he planting the peanut, you know, to eat the peanuts, but it's also to help build up the health of the soil, right? Same thing with the soybean, you know what I mean? And then there's others that you can plant too. But the whole goal really at the end of the day is to try to figure out ways that you can put as much organic matter, and when I say organic matter, that's basically dead plants, back into the soil. And how can you support, you know, the soil and its regeneration every time you plant something and take it out? How do you put something back so that it can, you know, evolve in this and the benefit that it has for your plants?
So the same holds true for the box gardens that I see a lot of people doing now.
Yep.
Building a box ground above garden, you know, from the and doing the soil that way.
Real talk. So you know, I mean, so this is the thing. So like, you know, in the city, we recommend people do those box gardens because like the hood is toxic, man. Like a lot of places that, you know, we have been afforded the opportunity to live at, you know, those are dangerous places to live on. You know, some neighborhoods is built on top of landfills, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm in Richmond, Virginia. It's like a lot of the housing projects were like built on top of like wastelands. You know what I mean? Or they were down the street from the place where they burnt batteries. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody literally took the batteries and like to get rid of them, they had a place where they burned them in the furnace, and then the smoke from that, your neighborhood was downwind from the place where lead was being burned, you know, and in the air. You know what I mean? So those raised box gardens is a safety measure. You know what I mean? So the actual soil that you're growing in is not the same soil that has those contaminants in it. You know what I'm saying? So when we do stuff in the hood, you know, we really try to make sure people have the best opportunity to grow the healthiest food as possible. And so those raised beds are like a prerequisite, because I don't trust none of the soil in the city. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know. You never know. It could be a housing lot that had a house that was built in like the 20s and 30s, but it was torn down. But you know, all the houses that were built before the 50s were painted with lead paint.
Right.
You did. And
Right.
so even on the most smallest amount of lead, if you ingest it, it could cause neurological damage. You did. So, you know what I mean? The plants are gonna take up the lead that was inside of the soil if you growing it in that soil that has that contaminant in it. It'll literally the plant will accumulate those many plants, not all plants, not this is not the same for trees or like bushes, but like if I planted some collard greens in some soil that had lead in it, then the leaves of that collard green is gonna have lead in it. And then I eat the collard green with the lead in it. And you know what I'm saying? Now I got lead in my system. You see what I'm saying? This is how it works. So you gotta be precautious. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And during this period of time of the pandemic, um, how more essential is it to start growing your garden now than it ever was before?
Well, first of all, we should have been on this before because it's almost like, we behind the curve. You know what I'm saying? So on one level, A, we as a people have to be self-reliant. You know what I'm saying? We have to be more independent as a community. And it starts with your food that you eat. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm relying on somebody else to make sure that there's food in my community, then I'm at their whim. If they decide that, well, today, uh, the it's now mandatory for you to have the vaccine card, you know what I'm saying, in order for you to go buy things in the store, then what are you gonna do if you don't believe in, what I'm saying, getting the vaccine? You
Right.
stuck. Or the pandemic showed us that like, it wasn't really safe to be out in these crowded spaces. You did. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't be out, the grocery store was, one of the most crowded places, right? People trying to get food. And you don't want to be around a whole bunch of people if there's a pandemic and it's spread through the air. So, that's another reason. And then the third really is like I went to the stores. I've been going to grocery stores. And during the height of the pandemic, and it might still be the case because I don't really, I mean, I haven't been in a while to the like chicken section or the meat section. But when I was going in probably 6 months ago, it was like you only can get 2 packs of this chicken at a time, which is crazy, right? You go to the grocery store and it's like, what if you got a family of 6? You know what I'm saying? And you only can get 2 packs of chicken at a time. That's not enough for 6 mouths. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah. So, it's really imperative for us to be like, yo, we're not relying on, the grocery store, or we're not relying on somebody else's supply chain to make sure that our families are fed. Like the extra level of this, right, is that we have not always relied on that. You see what I'm saying? So the thing they try to explain to people is like grocery stores haven't always existed. You know what I mean? Like, so if you go back to the 50s, shit, the grocery store was created, I think, like in the mid 50s, early 60s, right? That's when they became, a thing. Before that, it was like mom and pop shops, you know what I'm saying? Smaller stores, you know what I'm saying, that had things that the farmers had grown that they were selling in those spaces, or traded and or bought from a farmer who had a farm stand or what have you.
Right.
For most of us as Black folks, we migrated from the country into the city looking for better jobs, looking for better opportunities, and trying to get away from the racist white folks that lived in the areas that we were, at. So we've gotten away from the process of grandma having a garden. Grandma didn't have a garden just for, warm fuzzies. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't growing all that corn and beans just because it made her feel good. She was growing that because she saw her grandma or her mama and her grandma and her grandfather doing that as a way of feeding not only themselves, but then the other families in the community. So everybody that was in those areas had some form of garden, and they might not have been growing all the same things at the same time, but somebody might have been growing watermelon, somebody might have had chickens, somebody else might have, been raising goats, you know what I'm saying? So it's like different people had different things, and so folks were able to like support each other in that way. So to answer your question though, the pandemic has revealed just how precarious it is for us. Like even if you had a grocery store in your neighborhood, in your community, and it's like, they putting limits on how much you can get. So, maybe we need to be thinking about how we provide our own. And then this is the thing, like you saving money, you know what I mean? If you're doing it the right way, you saving money and abundance. Like for us, like growing, like we be having more stuff than we could do something with. You know what I'm saying? Like when we plant out, our rows, it's like, yo, we got mad corn, mad eggplant. You know what I'm saying? Mad peppers. You know what I'm saying? Super amounts of collard greens. You know what I'm saying? All types of watermelon. Like this is what I've learned is like if you do this, you get to experience what it means to be living in abundance. Because I mean, you won't if you start a garden, you know what I'm saying, and you are consistent with it, you should definitely have an abundant harvest. And if you do it right, you can plant it so that you always got stuff coming off of the vine, and it's not necessary for you to, you know what I'm saying, be struggling like, oh my God, like I don't have enough string beans. It's like, yo, you could have string beans for the entire spring, the entire summer, you know what I'm saying? And then coming into the fall, you could be doing your squashes, your onions, your garlics, you know what I'm saying? Stuff that you can store. It's really the way for us to have sovereignty and have control over our number one priority. Like everybody got to eat. It don't matter what you look like. It don't matter where you live. It don't matter your size, you know what I'm saying, education level. Like everybody got to eat food, bro. And for me, I just feel like, the pandemic has let me know just how people were out here scrambling. You know what I'm saying? Didn't really know when people lost their job, you know what I'm saying? When them companies closed back in April of 2020, you know what I'm saying? People was literally out here scrambling, man. If there wasn't a food stamp program and that pandemic assistance through the unemployment, you know what I mean? People would have been straight up rioting in the streets. Real talk.
That's the reason why I feel like this show right here is very imperative because of what we just went through. That it's a necessity that we become more hands-on with our own future and understand the essentials, you know what I'm saying, the thing that we must obtain the essentials. We must be able to do for ourselves when it comes down to the essentials. And reading part of your background, I see that you teach a class about how to grow your fruits and vegetables and stuff in your community.
Yeah.
And also too with the Happy Natural Festival, getting back to the holistic, universal family structure that we need during these period in time. But you touched on the subject of when the pandemic hit, people were scrambling. So how do you feel about it being a necessity to learn how to grow your food, how to be able to fish, hunt with, you know what I'm saying, and have to live, make sure that you prepared to live without the our normal technology and different things that we have.
Yo, I feel like this should be normal, man. I feel like it should be normal for us to be, able to go in our backyard or into a space within proximity to where we live and be able to harvest food. I feel like that. I don't feel like that should be like, you know what I'm saying, an exception. You know what I'm saying? That should be like the standard, right, for how our communities are considered healthy or not. So for me, like I feel like it's like I feel like we've gotten away from the way that we as human beings are supposed to be living, right? We're communal people, right? We thrive in relationship with one another. You know what I mean? It's not like the way that we live in today is more like isolated, like, yo, I'm just me and my family in my house. You know, when we say community, you know what I mean? Like we thinking about people, and we might not even know the people that's two doors down from us. You know what I'm saying? Which is, you know, that's just the nature of how this system has evolved for us. But one thing I've learned is that the garden, the farm, like those spaces, like they create kind of like the opportunity for us to start to connect with one another, you know what I'm saying, in a way that helps build strength, you know what I mean? Gets us out of isolation, like connects us to the one thing that we all got in common. Right. You know, we might not pray the same, you know what I'm saying, but we all eat food. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? This is something very like, I don't know how to explain it other than it's like, yo, it's something universal. Like food is a universal language. You know, I do these classes and I ask people like, yo, what's your earliest memory of family and food? And everybody got a story about a family member and some dish that, you know, they ate with that family member that was super good and just brought out really good emotions and good feelings. Right. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, everybody has a story about like that, or some form of a story that's related to somebody that they cared about and some food that they was eating together. Right. So I say all that to say, like that, creating those threads and ways that we can start to interact and connect with each other. It starts with, well, how's the food getting to, you know, the plate? It's a community effort. It's not just one person. Like the farmer, right? He can grow all the things, you know what I'm saying? But he can grow even more if it's in collaboration with more people, right? For us, for example, you know, we manage a farm, you know what I mean? We got an orchard and we, you know, do very well with the amount that we're able to grow, but we can grow even more if we have more people, you know what I'm saying, in that mix and in that flow and those systems, not just the planting and the harvesting, but also the sale, you know, the distribution of it, you know what I'm saying, or even the cooking of it. Like we could do family feasts, community dinners and stuff like that. So that requires more people that cook, people that know how, you know what I'm saying, to do all that stuff. So, you know, I feel like food, for me, philosophically, like this is a thing. This is a concept. Food as a concept for me has grown into this connector. It's like a hub. And like all these other things radiate around it. And I feel like we have not really dug into that in a way where we were recognizing the importance of land, you know what I'm saying, and what we can do on that land and how we connect that land to our very immediate needs, which is food, you know what I'm saying, housing, and shelter. You know what I'm saying? Food, housing, and clothing are like the three things that no matter if like you got those three things, you know what I'm saying, you pretty much Gucci. You know what I'm saying? But in the crisis that we have in our communities that people don't have nowhere to stay, you know what I'm saying? Like it's hella expensive for apartments and even, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to find a place, like mad people that's like quasi homeless, you know what I'm saying? Like they living with a friend or they living with a cousin or a family member, you know what I'm saying? And then people being hungry. So I feel like land is the way that we address both of those things. And even with clothes, it's like, yo, you know, all the things that we would wear like comes from the earth in the first place. Like there's no way you can get clothing without cotton. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I raise some sheep, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, like that's how I'm getting clothing, you know what I'm saying? So these are, everything starts with the land. But I just feel like it's the way that we try to introduce our community now to like organizing and like seeing these bigger pictures of like liberation and freedom is like, yo, we could talk about all this stuff. But if we're not building something tangible, something practical, something that I can hold, you know what I'm saying, something I can put my hands on and it's like you just talking, man. We need to figure out what is it that I can literally build that the next generation can take hold of, you know what I'm saying, and evolve. You know what I'm saying? While we can definitely talk about how that looks like ideas, you know what I'm saying, literature, you know what I'm saying, concepts, philosophical, intellectual stuff.
Mhm.
Like if that stuff doesn't translate into how we deal with our built environment, the literal reality that we live in, then it's like all for naught. You know what I'm saying? Like it was great, but you know, the neighborhood still looked like trash.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? How does that reflect all the knowledge that we have if our neighborhoods don't have trees, or you know what I'm saying, there's new food to eat in the community? You know what I'm saying? So this is just really, for me, it's like an accountability practice too. It's like, yo, we know these things, so
Mhm.
let's put them into practice. And the way that I feel like the most relevant thing for everybody is food.
Well, I know we're coming up close to almost the end of the show, and there's like two questions that I have for you. Far as your Happy Natural Festival, how did that come about? Um, and also, too, can you let our audience know how they may be able to contact you, how they may be able to enroll in some of your classes that you're teaching when it comes down to the holistic science and the fruits and vegetables and
Word,
garden.
word. Well, Happily Natural Day came from me volunteering at the Black History Museum. I used to volunteer there. Then they gave me a job, and well, I encouraged them to hire me, and they actually hired me. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but they used to have a jazz concert when I was working there, and then they didn't have the funding to do it, and so I asked them if I could do the Happily Natural Day. You know what I'm saying? And it was like a concept, an idea that we was dealing with, because of that year, like 2002, 2003, was like the 50th year anniversary of like Brown versus Board of Education. And I don't know if you know about that
Mhm.
case. That was what desegregated the public schools, but they used as evidence in that case, like these little kids they gave them white doll and a black doll, and they asked them, well, how do they feel about the black doll versus the white doll? And the kids were like, the black doll is bad and ugly, and the white doll was good and pretty. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, yo, that's a byproduct of the schools being segregated. But we know it doesn't matter if the school's segregated or not, that's a byproduct of just living in this system, you know what I'm saying, of white supremacy, right? So we pulled the festival together specifically to address like these issues of self identity and inferiority complexes in the Black community. And we wanted to bring out a space where we can like really be proud of ourselves and love each other, from just not only the aesthetics, but then especially in terms of like the inner beauty, like that's your health, like your wellness, and like really promote those ideas. Um, so we did it the first time at the Black History Museum in summer 2003, and then like, you know, it was just a one-off thing, but people asked us to keep doing it, and so we just kept it up, and it's been, you know, 18 years now. We just been keep producing it. I mean, of course, in COVID, we didn't do it this year because it's too much going on. You know what I'm saying? It was like, yo, we're just gonna pause for a second and try to get our hand. We did it last year as like a virtual thing, but it
Mhm.
wasn't the same. It wasn't the same
Right.
vibes. So it was like, yo, we're gonna figure out a way to do this so that it's everybody stays healthy and we're not putting anybody at risk. But yeah, that's how it came about. And then like in terms of how people can get connected with us, like, you know, we do offer, you know, the classes. We're getting ready to do another one for fall. Probably like the end of this month, early October, we'll run a 5-week course on, you know, just how to get your fall garden going. And then also, you know, in 2022, we're going to do a longer class, a 12-week one. So y'all just stay tuned. You could check out thenaturalfestival.com. That's our website. Or, you know, you can get at us on social medias, you know, Duron Chavis or Happily Natural Festival, either one of those channels, or even our YouTube. You can look me up on YouTube. It's Duron Chavis on YouTube. And we'll put out an announcement. But those classes are really hyper local. So, you know, we're working on putting together a course that's virtual so that people could just go on our website and boom, you know what I'm saying? Download the videos and things like that on how they get these stuff going. So stay tuned to that too.
Appreciate it. Also, too, I want to take the time out to let you know I've been trying my best to get you on the show for like last couple of weeks.
Word.
Um, been following a lot of your stuff for the last, like you say, 15 years.
Mm, mm,
Because I think that we, like I said before the show started, we have some mutual acquaintances, you know what I'm
word.
saying, with one another. So been able to follow a lot of your works over the years.
Yeah,
And I felt
bro.
like the Happy Natural Festival was a beautiful event that that brung the whole community of Richmond and the
Mhm,
surrounding areas together. And
mhm.
it was really a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
And was looking to see how it would be able to expand universally, like nationwide in different areas, because the thought process and the idea of the festival was beautiful.
well, I
Um,
appreciate that, bro. Thank you so much.
no
We
doubt.
were
But
do we've been doing it. We were doing it in Atlanta for a minute, you know,
right,
and Richmond. We're about to start bringing it back. Like when this COVID stuff clear up, or we get a better handle on how to deliver the festival in light of this, you know, we've definitely been talking about bringing it back to Atlanta, and then also, you know, bringing it back to Richmond. I mean, this is the first year that we haven't done it in some way, shape, or form in the period since we started doing it. So I'm kind of, you know, I'm sad that we can do it this year, but I'm more concerned about the safety of our people than putting on an event, you know what I mean? So
right.
but stay tuned, because next year we're gonna be back, and it's gonna be better than ever. I'm positive once we get our hands on, you know, what's the way that we deliver these type of activities so that we can keep everybody safe. It's gonna be off the chain.
All right. Again, you know what I'm saying? This is Real to Real 360. I am Joshua Law. Our special guest today was Duron Chavis, Brother Manifest. And my co-host, DJ KY, is finna take us out of here. Peace.
Thank y'all.
Peace. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Real to Real 360 the next time. To all our subscribers, our closest friends and neighbors and family, we say peace and blessings and be safe. Peace to the nation of gods and earth, to all the human family on the planet Earth.